Stevie Lynn Osborn, a vibrant young child, was born on April 28, 2017, in Kansas City, Missouri. She called the Northland area home, a suburban haven filled with families. In 2019, during a tragic turn of events, Stevie was just 2 years old. Her joyful spirit shone brightly, delighting in life's simple pleasures. She adored watching Frozen. Especially charmed by Anna and Olaf, sloths captured her heart, as did playing with her grandmother's cat, Charlie. Time with her cousins brought her endless joy. Her toddler life was filled with play, woven with cherished family moments. Stevie's family centered around her father, Gary Lee Osborne, and her mother, Abigail Jean Morris, known as Abby. Gary and Abby's love story began in 2013, blossoming into a romance soon after. They married before Stevie came into their lives. Abby, a dedicated critical care nurse, worked at St. Luke's Hospital in Kansas City. She dreamed of nursing school to elevate her career. Gary took on various jobs to support his family, including stints at Motion Industries and later at Unilever. He remained a steadfast presence in Stevie's life, but challenges loomed large for the family. Gary and Abby parted ways in September 2017, when Stevie was only 5 months old. This led to a custody agreement in January 2018, granting them joint legal custody. Stevie lived primarily with Abby, while Gary had visitation every other weekend and one overnight stay each week. He faithfully paid over $700 monthly in child support to provide for Stevie's needs. This arrangement let Stevie share time with both parents, yet it sparked tensions between Gary and Abby. Stevie's extended family was a cornerstone of her life. Her father's mother, Valerie, known as Mimi, shared a special bond with her. Stevie loved playing with her cousins, and on her mother's side, Abby's mother, Mindy, grandmother Carol Dixon, and great-grandmother Virginia Seller were part of her world. Virginia often stepped in to help with childcare. These loved ones shaped Stevie's joyful days. They offered steadfast support and love for Stevie. In early 2019, Abby started a new relationship with Joseph Chilson, a high school friend of both Abby and Gary. Joseph, known as Joe, moved into Abby and Stevie's home at Wild Oak Apartment Homes in Kansas City, reshaping their daily life. This introduced a new presence into Stevie's everyday world. Joe often cared for Stevie during Abby's work hours. Signs of trouble began to surface in the home. Later reports uncovered Joe's struggles with anger issues. Abby knew of some of these concerns, yet allowed the living situation to continue. Family members noticed subtle changes in Stevie's health or behavior, though nothing seemed alarming at the time. Gary, during his visits, kept a close eye on Stevie, seeing her as generally happy and healthy. He remained unaware of any significant problems. Kansas City provided family support services, including child protection agencies, which would later play a role. Stevie's story shows how quickly life can change. Her family cherishes memories of a loving toddler who deserved a long, vibrant life. In the months leading up to the tragedy, Stevie embraced typical toddler milestones, learning to walk and talk, finding joy in simple toys and playtime. Her parents captured her radiant smiles in photos, showing her lost in playful moments. The custody agreement kept both parents engaged, though tensions often flared. Communication between them grew strained at times. Abby's demanding nursing job meant long shifts, prompting her to rely on others for Stevie's care. Joe became a key part of that support. Family gatherings, like festive holiday parties, remained a treasured tradition. One such celebration took place just before the tragedy. This time in Stevie's life was filled with growth and family connections, yet hidden issues lingered. These would soon come to light. The life of a young child in a shared custody arrangement is not uncommon, but here it led to devastating consequences. Stevie's birth filled her parents with joy, her name chosen with heartfelt care, including her middle names, Lynn and Allison. She was the only child Gary and Abby shared. Despite their split, they worked to give her a stable home. Kansas City offered ample resources for parents, yet not every family seeks them out. Stevie's family managed alone until tragedy struck. This context paints a vivid picture of Stevie's world. Before that heartbreaking day in December 2019, a typical toddler, she was surrounded by a loving family, yet faced challenges many families know too well. On December 23, 2019, Stevie Lynn Osborn's final day dawned, like any other, at home, in Wild Oak Apartment Homes, Kansas City, Missouri. Her mother, Abby, left for work that morning, entrusting Stevie to her boyfriend, Joseph Chilson. That weekend, Stevie had shown signs of being unwell. On December 23rd, Joe texted Abby that Stevie was vomiting. On December 22nd, Joe claimed Stevie tripped over the family dog, striking her head, leaving visible bruises by evening. That night, Abby hosted a Christmas party at the apartment. Family, including Abby's grandmother, Carol Dixon, joined the celebration. They saw Stevie was far from her lively self. Marks marred her forehead, ears and neck. She vomited and felt feverish. Guests pressed Abby to seek a doctor, but she brushed it off as a stomach bug. Party photos revealed Stevie's declining condition. That night, Abby and Joe clashed in a heated physical argument, agreeing Joe would soon leave the home. On December 23rd morning, Abby left for work around noon. Joe called Abby, saying Stevie fell from bed and had stopped breathing. Abby urged him to call emergency services. First responders arrived at the apartment, finding Stevie unresponsive, with troubling marks across her body. They launched life-saving efforts and rushed her to Liberty Hospital. Her fragile life hung in the balance. At the hospital, Stevie was in cardiac arrest, her pulse gone. For about 20 minutes, doctors fought to stabilize her, enough to transfer her to Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City for specialized care. There, she underwent emergency surgery to ease the pressure on her brain. Tragically, Stevie passed away during the procedure. The crisis began when Joe called Abby, prompting a call to emergency services. No one else was in the apartment at the time. Abby raced to the hospital after Joe's call. Gary, Stevie's father, was notified and hurried to the hospital. Police sprang into action immediately. The Kansas City Police Department responded, launching a thorough investigation. They questioned Joe and Abby at the scene and the hospital. Detectives gathered evidence from the apartment, including photos and personal items. They interviewed family members who saw Stevie at the Christmas party. The scene was the apartment, where Stevie lived with Abby and Joe, a standard two-bedroom unit in a complex. Stevie's room held her bed and cherished toys. The apartment's condition showed no clear signs of a struggle, but Stevie's injuries became the focus. Medical staff alerted authorities due to the suspicious nature of her injuries. An autopsy was conducted on December 24, 2019 by Dr. Ultaf Hussain at Frontier Forensics. The findings revealed Stevie suffered impact injuries to her head and other areas. Her cause of death was listed as complications from head injuries, ruled a homicide. This meant her death resulted from another person's actions. In the days that followed, grief consumed the family. Gary and his family held a memorial for Stevie, celebrating her joyful moments. Abby mourned deeply, but tensions flared between the families. The Northland community reeled in shock, such tragedies being rare. Initial media coverage was sparse, with local news reporting the death as a homicide. In March 2020, police confirmed the tragic details. Outlets like KSHB and the Kansas City Star reported basic facts, but details remained scarce due to the ongoing investigation. The public learned of the case through these reports. The community rallied to support the grieving family. Gary launched a GoFundMe to cover memorial costs. With donations and heartfelt messages pouring in, Child Services stepped in to examine the care Stevie received. Early findings raised concerns about neglect. The Missouri Department of Social Services, Children's Division, launched a thorough review, interviewing witnesses and analyzing records. Their March 26, 2020 report found evidence of neglect by Abby and abuse by Joe. Police continued collecting statements, noting Joe's inconsistent accounts. He initially claimed Stevie fell from bed, but his story shifted. Abby insisted she was not home at the time. The aftermath left everyone shattered. Gary pursued answers and justice for Stevie, meeting with police and prosecutors. The family held private gatherings to honor Stevie. Her gravesite in Gladstone, Missouri, became a place to remember her. The tragedy weighed heavily on the community. It sparked greater awareness about child safety. Local groups explored ways to support struggling families. The case underscored the need to report concerns promptly. The initial steps of the investigation laid the groundwork for what followed. Evidence was meticulously gathered as agencies collaborated. Yet, challenges loomed ahead as the case unfolded. The holidays deepened the family's loss. Christmas arrived just days later, but celebrations were abandoned. Family members leaned on each other through the grief. Stevie's story touched countless hearts, despite limited early news coverage. Podcasts later spotlighted the case to raise awareness. This helped amplify its impact. Initial police efforts included reviewing medical records and timelines, ensuring every detail was documented. This meticulous approach was critical in the early stages. In summary, on the day of the tragedy, the immediate response saw swift action from emergency teams and police. Their findings led to a homicide ruling, setting the stage for a quest for answers. Stevie Lynn Osborn's case grew cold, lacking sufficient evidence for charges. Initially, after the investigation began, police identified suspects but lacked solid proof to proceed. In February 2020, the death was ruled a homicide, yet no arrests followed. The Missouri Department of Social Services report highlighted serious issues, but criminal charges required stricter evidence. Suspects included Joseph Chilson and Abigail Osborne. Joe emerged as the primary person of interest, as he was alone with Stevie when the emergency call was made. His shifting stories about the fall raised doubts. Questions swirled around his account. Abby faced scrutiny for not seeking help sooner, especially after the party when Stevie was visibly ill. Yet, prosecutors did not charge either, citing insufficient evidence to prove intent or direct action. Early efforts included interviews with family, friends, and party witnesses. Police examined phone records, including texts between Abby and Joe. They reviewed Stevie's medical history for any prior concerns, but challenges persisted. Witnesses offered conflicting memories of events. The injuries could be framed as accidents by a defense. No direct witness saw a harmful act. The case stalled after 2020, though police reviewed it periodically. No new leads surfaced in 2021. On January 6th, Joe took his own life, halting the investigation's progress. Police viewed his action as a possible admission, but a deceased person could not be charged. They chose not to pursue Abby, closing the criminal case. From 2021 to 2023, little progress was made. Gary relentlessly pushed for action, meeting with Clay County prosecutor Robert Sanders. The prosecutor clarified that poor parenting alone was not a crime. Without clear evidence of Abby's direct involvement, no charges could be filed. Gary felt deep frustration, yet tirelessly sought ways to keep the case alive. Child Services conducted ongoing reviews, with the DSS placing Abby on the Child Abuse and Neglect Registry. This kindized her nursing career, threatening her license if the findings held. In April 2020, Abby filed a lawsuit against the Children's Division, contesting their report. The case reached a bench trial in March 2023, but by mid-2023, no ruling had been issued. The family waited anxiously for updates. Gary launched a GoFundMe to raise awareness. while podcasts like Suffer the Little Children covered Stevie's story in 2023, drawing public attention. Yet, no new evidence emerged. The host discussed the case with Gary, highlighting the ongoing lack of justice. In 2024, podcasts like The Misery Machine delved into the case, noting no one had been held accountable. The family marked anniversaries in private, honoring Stevie's birthday on April 28th, each year with quiet remembrance. Challenges mounted as time passed, fading memories complicating the case. Photos and reports remained as evidence, but no new technology was applied. Early on, DNA or forensics weren't critical. As the cause was blunt impact injuries, the case remained dormant, with the main suspect deceased and evidence against others too weak. Police shifted focus to active cases, while community interest waned. Without fresh updates, Gary and his family pushed for reform, advocating for stronger child protection laws. This kept Stevie's name alive in discussions, though the case itself saw no progress. In 2025, a Facebook post on April 28th marked what would have been Stevie's 8th birthday, stating, "The case remained without charges or much media focus." The family clung to hope for justice, highlighting the challenges of child homicide cases. Without clear evidence, cases can stall indefinitely. The lack of progress left the family without closure. Victim advocates supported Gary, but no breakthroughs emerged. Abby's unresolved lawsuit added to the delays. Overall, the cold case years were defined by waiting and small efforts to maintain attention. No significant changes occurred, leaving the case open but dormant. The community occasionally discussed similar cases, raising awareness, yet for Stevie, justice remained elusive. This period underscores how cases can grow cold despite early investigative efforts. Families like Gary's endure ongoing pain, grappling with grief without answers. No major turning point has emerged. In Stevie Lynn Osborn's case, new technology or specialized units were not utilized, leaving the investigation stalled. After Joseph Chilson's death in 2021, still, some developments kept the case visible, like the Department of Social Services report and public discussions via podcasts. These efforts didn't yield charges, but sustained awareness. The March 2020 DSS report was a pivotal document, identifying preliminary evidence of neglect by Abby and abuse by Joe based on interviews, medical findings and timelines. It highlighted Abby's failure to seek medical help when Stevie showed symptoms at the party. For Joe, it flagged his role during the final incident. The report wasn't criminal evidence, but it supported administrative actions. In 2023, podcasts offered a breakthrough in public awareness. Suffer the Little Children aired an episode with Gary, who shared details of Stevie's life and the stalled investigation. This reached a wider audience, while a Minnesota update covered the bench trial and Abby's lawsuit. The lawsuit itself marked a development, as Abby fought to clear her name from the registry. The trial, held on March 7th, 2023, before Judge Timothy Fluke, featured evidence from both sides. Witnesses testified about the tragic events. As of 2023, no ruling had been issued. The process revisited existing evidence, but it remained a civil, not criminal, matter. No new suspect interviews took place after 2021, with Joe deceased and Abby facing no charges. Police did not re-interview others. Joe's inconsistent statements were noted early, shifting details about Stevie's fall. Abby's account stayed consistent, though her decisions raised lingering questions. Forensics shaped the initial autopsy, with Dr. Hussein's report detailing Stevie's injuries. Without graphic detail, forensic advances, like enhanced imaging, were not applied later, as the cause was evident. DNA tests were unnecessary, as the case hinged on care and actions, not identity. No new evidence implicated anyone further. The report and statements were the only evidence. Police noted Joe's suicide closed the main lead. No new items or witnesses surfaced. Gary's advocacy marked a personal breakthrough, speaking out to demand justice. Meetings with the prosecutor exposed investigative gaps. The prosecutor explained evidence was insufficient to charge Abby. In 2024, more podcasts highlighted the case, emphasizing the lack of accountability. Public pressure could prompt reviews, but none occurred. The family hoped for a cold case unit to revisit, but Kansas City police did not assign one. Potential for new tools, like digital reconstructions, exists but was not utilized. The case relies on witness statements and medical reports. The bench trial resurfaced old evidence, including the autopsy and DSS findings. If the judge rules against Abby, it could impact her life, though not criminally. No new interviews revealed inconsistencies, as none took place. Early interviews showed timeline discrepancies from party guests. Overall, the case lacks a conventional breakthrough. The DSS report and public attention are the closest, yet no arrests followed. The family continues to await any progress. This case shows how some remain unresolved, leaving Stevie's justice out of reach. Justice remains out of reach. Podcasts have had a notable impact, reaching listeners who rallied behind the family. This could have spurred new tips, but none surfaced. A future cold case unit review might leverage new methods, but for now, no such steps exist. This section highlights the absence of a breakthrough, as the facts reveal. The case needs fresh evidence to move forward. No criminal charges or arrests have been made. In Stevie Lynn Osborn's case, the investigation halted after Joseph Chilson's suicide. In 2021, no grand jury was convened, no indictment issued. Abby faced no charges, as prosecutors cited insufficient evidence. Legal steps were confined to administrative actions. The DSS report led to Abby's placement on the registry. In April 2020, she filed a civil lawsuit against Jennifer Tidball and the Children's Division to contest this. The lawsuit progressed through court, with a bench trial held on March 7, 2023. No jury was involved. Evidence included the report, testimonies, and medical findings. As of 2025, the judge has not ruled. The motive behind the events remains unclear, as no criminal trial occurred. Evidence suggests possible neglect or accident, yet the homicide ruling points to deliberate actions. No criminal trial has taken place. If one had, arguments would center on responsibility. Prosecutors might argue Joe caused the injuries, and Abby failed to protect Stevie. The defense would claim accidents and no intent. Challenges include fading memories and evidence gaps. Time has blurred the details, complicating recall. No direct proof exists. The civil lawsuit is the sole active legal action, aiming to clear Abby's name for her career. A favorable ruling could remove her from the registry, but it won't bring criminal resolution. The family remains without closure. Gary pursues advocacy to keep Stevie's story alive. This lack of resolution exposes systemic flaws in child homicide cases, where evidence thresholds are high. This section underscores the absence of typical legal steps. The case remains without charges, with no verdict. In Stevie Lynn Osborn's case, no trial occurred and no sentencing followed. The civil lawsuit awaits a judge's decision.